Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chiseled. And why do we call it Chiseled? Because we're all a work in progress. I'm your host. I'm Rob Commodari. I'm also the author of the book Better Than You Think and co-author of Next Level Your Life with Kyle Wilson and several other authors. Today, I have a guest, Laura Franco from Bethesda, Maryland. She is the owner of Brave Healer Productions, where she'll help you share your story, build your business, and change the world. With 3 decades of expertise in holistic physical therapy, a third-degree black belt, and 14 books, well, it's more than that now, right? She has clear preference of being badass, but she's also the champion of entrepreneurs who want to grow their health-based practices. Her writing workshops, business strategy sessions, and online writing club are just some of the ways she helps talented professionals maximize their professional impact. Her latest project is the Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing Techniques. It's a powerful 25 expert collaboration of tools you can use at home for peak holistic health and wellness. She has 2 signature books, Brave Healing and Having Fun with Your Fears. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. She's also the author of Living, Healing, and Taekwondo. It was an inspiration memoir and chronicle of the journey she took with her son from white to black belt. That's pretty cool. I got 2 kids that are black belts. She's the creator of the Warrior Journal Project, Warrior Love, Warrior Joy, Warrior Soul, and Warrior Dreams, a journal to inspire your fiercely alive whole self. Laura is a certified content marketer and international blogger with a thing or two to say about sharing your words out loud. She's a 10-time Amazon best-selling author, and she's also published 67 other books that were bestsellers. Laura, thank you for being on the show today, and welcome.
Thank you, Rob. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for reading all those things about me. That's fun to listen to.
What makes you think I read them? What if I had them memorized?
I don't know. That would be a trick.
I would consider myself a badass, right?
Yes, exactly.
So we met through a common friend, Justin Breen, right?
Yeah, Justin. Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, and he's a topic of he likes to talk to visionaries, as he put it, and he connected us too because we had what's it, the Colby test, I think it is. That was pretty interesting, that whole process, correct?
It was interesting. It was great to get this introduction, and I was really grateful for he kind of unapologetically wants to talk to visionaries, and that means he connects visionary to visionary, which is why we're here today. So I'm grateful to him for setting his own business boundaries. And I've really tried to model that since I met him. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So I interviewed him on this podcast, and his will go live soon. But I'm grateful for that introduction as well. But today we're talking about you. We're talking about all the success you've had, the books you've written. So tell me a little bit about your background and how did you get to this point?
Well, so my first 30-year career was as a holistic physical therapist. And I started, right off the bat, I knew I wanted to help people. I've been a lifelong athlete. So when I was looking at things to do back when I was a youngin', I knew I wanted to maybe be like a sports medicine doctor or something, right? I played soccer. I've been a marathoner. And as you read, I'm a black belt. But that morphed into a physical therapy degree. And I, for my whole first career, really dove into studying holistic healing, kind of mind, body, soul, and really branded myself as a holistic physical therapist. I wanted people to know that it wasn't just physical that they needed to think about when it came to healing. And so that was the beginning of it. And I've always been a writer. So once upon a time, I married these things together and started writing, blogging, book writing, everything you could think of. And here we are with this second company now, Brave Healer Productions, where I am a publisher for holistic health and wellness professionals and absolutely doing what I was born to do.
Yeah, I can hear your voice. I can sense the energy, and I appreciate that. So we were talking offline. We've had a couple of conversations in the past month or so, and we talked about this, the holistic healing, and I think we got along that path of self-healing, correct?
Yes. I mean, the first collaboration was about, we teach people how to facilitate their own healing process, and authentic healers know that you do not fix people, that you facilitate a process of them connecting to their own inner power, inner wisdom, and inner healing, inner healer. And so it was really important. And the collaborative book that was The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing was COVID-born idea because we had all lost our hands on people all of a sudden, and it shut down my physical therapy practice in a day, right?
Wow.
So I went out to that group of people that I had already been networking with and doing some business courses and writing and things. And I said, hey, we need to now like write this book. Like, let's get this out there. People need to understand the self-healing techniques that they can be using. And we published that first volume. In fact, we have 5 volumes of that book published now to date. The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing. It was really important to me to teach people what to do, and they don't have to go anywhere but the book to do it.
And I think if I could clarify one thing, some people, they hear the word self-healing and they might think it's a little hocus pocus, but it's not, because we've talked about this, John Sarno, Dr. John Sarno, and the whole mind over body thing. So can you tell me a little bit about the difference? You talked about facilitating self-healing, because you made it clear you're not the healer, you're helping somebody facilitate. What's that look like?
It's such a great question. I feel like I've been a guide on the journey. I facilitate the journey. I facilitate the process by helping you with your own awareness and your own power and your own types of inner wisdom. So if I connect you by teaching you skills and tools and strategies, and there are so many wonderful things to learn about that, right? We filled up 5 volumes of books with them. So obviously there's a lot to learn. You can address certain pain, yes, physical pain, but also mental, emotional, or any place you feel stuck in your life that you feel you aren't happy with. And we're going to address that with so many different kinds of healing modalities and techniques that you can learn and practice that will help you feel better. I mean, it's a general way to talk about it because there's so many avenues we could go down right now in terms of, well, what kind of healing are you talking about, Laura? But that's a start.
So when somebody says, like in the self-healing process, I've read and heard the word psychosomatic, right? In the psychosomatic, I got that from the John Sarno piece. And some people might tend to say, well, it's in your head. It's not just in your head, is it?
Everything is in your mind, body, both. How could anything not be a combination of all of it? Mind, body, soul. Is it in your head? Yes. Is it in your body? Yeah. Is it in your spirit or soul or the way that you practice connecting to something bigger than you? Yes, it is that too. So like I have never been a fan of healing gurus who tell you there's only one way to do this and it's my way and you need to do it right. It's everything, and it's how you integrate all of those things together. So gosh, I mean, even if we started down the path of talking about one of the modalities, myofascial release, if you understand the physical tissue of the fascia, the connective tissue inside of your body, and I could show you that on a cadaver, and we started to talk about how that holds the energy of trauma. Man, we could have a whole interview about that topic today. And so it's always both. And if you start to try to separate it and tell people it's all in your mind or it's all in then you're missing the point, So I really like to talk about these things holistically. The myofascial release is just one of the healing modalities that I practiced as a physical therapist. And I'm so grateful to those teachers for starting me off on a path that is allowing me to talk to you like this today and really educate people. Yeah.
So is part of the cure the awareness of it all?
Oh my gosh. With awareness, you have a choice. With awareness is everything. Don't get me started. I'm telling you, this topic is like my absolute favorite topic. Awareness is the practice of healing. Yes.
And I've I can tell you, yeah, I think I told you on one of the calls like years ago, I was having this chronic back pain for years. I was going to a chiropractor and he hands me this book, John Sarno, The Healing Back Pain to Mind Body Connection. And I read it and I did what it said to do. And bang, within 3 weeks, the pain was gone. Now I have some pain since then, but I'm like, there's this stuff, like, how did that work? Right. And then I had an issue in my foot years later, and I'm going to the doctor, getting these injections, x-rays, and all this stuff, and nothing's working. And then I go back to the book, and the symptom that the doctor said I might be having was a neuroma. It was in the book. I did what it said to do, and bang, it was gone. So that's a form of self-healing. But in the book, it talks about just the awareness is part of the cure. And I believe awareness is the foundation of everything. And I think you just said that.
I definitely said that. Awareness is the foundation of everything you want to happen in your life, including physical changes or circumstantial changes, job changes, partner changes. You know, if you want a different life, you have to start with awareness. And when I talk about that, I talk about it in different ways. But for me, as a physical therapist, body awareness was one of the first ways I entered into this world. You know, our mind goes all day long and it can feel a little chaotic in there. If we don't have a way to ground and center into the sensations of our body, then awareness is going to be difficult. So I don't like to use the M word, meditation, because that scares people, right? They think they need to sit on a pillow for an hour and chant or something. But and while that is awesome, and I've done all the forms, what I think is that people are missing just getting still and listening to the wisdom that is in this body of yours every single moment of every day. We have access to this powerful, profound source every moment of every day. So that's why I say with awareness, you have a choice. So if you can wake up in the moment in your own body and feel the sensations, notice the thoughts, yes, you're 75% there.
Yeah, and so it's hard for the person, I think, in the, like, for instance, say you suffer an injury, right? You suffer an injury, and there is a physical problem there. But then the physical problem from physical therapy may be taken care of, but then you're still experiencing some pain. Where does that come from?
Oh my gosh, there's so many ways I could go with that answer. You know, why are you still having pain? I could talk about the myofascial reasons, about how our Western medical practitioners don't address either the whole body system or the whole person, mind, body, soul. So this is one of my favorite ways to talk about holistic medicine. As a physical therapist, if you came in with a back pain and I didn't look at your whole body system, meaning I forgot to look at your neck and your arms and the rest of you, I might miss a piece that could be the total root cause of your back pain. And so my bad if I missed that. If I didn't look at you as a whole myofascial system, I might miss a really important piece of your problem, right? And then secondly, if you came in with that back pain and I didn't treat you like a human being with life events, like I didn't ask you, hey, how's it going in life right now? And I missed that you had lost a job, had a death in the family, had some kind of thing like we all do every day, every month, right? We all go through these things. Then I could be missing another piece of your situation that, if addressed, could resolve your back pain. And these are the kinds of connections. And so I plead with people, be an advocate and go seek out great practitioners who both listen to you, give you the time you need to explain your stories, and also treat you holistically, a whole body system. And you can tell, like, this is another place where I feel so passionate about. I want to keep educating people to be their own advocates when they go into our systems, because our systems are they're just terrible right now.
Yeah, are you talking about the healthcare systems
yes.
as a whole? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there, if I'm hearing you correctly, there could be some trauma, some past trauma or childhood things that have occurred that might bring up tension in the body that causes it to manifest itself.
Of course, it can be childhood trauma. It could be young adult. It could be trauma anywhere on the timeline of your life. It could even have been a couple months ago. So
Yeah.
yeah, we all, you always hear about childhood traumas and childhood stuff, but what about the stuff that's more recent too? And what about the pile-on effect of all that? If you never addressed your problems holistically over the years or decades, guess what happens when the next thing happens to you? It's a pile on. Our poor nervous systems are off the chain in trouble. And we need facilitators and guides to help us back in here to feel, to really connect, and then to use some real strategies and skills to regulate the nervous system and get us back into balance, with that kind of that pile on. So yeah, I mean, that's a piece of it. This is such a big topic, right?
Yeah, we don't have enough time to go through the whole process.
Oh my gosh, it's a lot and it's important.
Yeah, but I love it because I got in touch with this stuff years ago, and I'm a big believer. And you start talking to people, and they look at you like you got three heads or something, So now do you still practice the physical therapy piece of it?
I don't. In the beginning of COVID, my PT practice, kind of the universe shut that down in a day because of what was going on. But I had founded Brave Healer Productions in 2016. So it had been the second business that I was running alongside my physical therapy practice, for about 5 years or so. And I made the decision not to reopen my PT practice. And I went to helping my fellow holistic practitioners move their messages and work out into the world in bigger ways through the books. And while I will always be grateful for that first whole life and career, I know the only reason I'm doing what I'm doing today is because I had that. And I got to learn what it meant to really help people holistically. And I also think that I'm a translator sometimes. I speak healer speak. So when I get to publish these beautiful books, I get to help practitioners let the world know what they do and in a way that they get it, right? Because like what you just said, people look at you sideways sometimes when you start to talk about these holistic topics. And I feel like that's part of what I was born to do, is just help people get that message out in a way that clicks. And it's changing the world.
It is changing the world, and so are you. So I mean, with 67 published books, that's a lot of authors you've worked with, right?
Yes. And we specialize in an expert collaboration. And the reason this was so important to me is because when you get together in a community, first of all, it's so much more fun to promote and launch and market a book, together as a community, but also because the world needs all of our unique voices. When you come into one of our books, you're getting to read a variety of stories, some of which will resonate and others won't, but that's okay. We need all of the unique voices, but then especially we need all the tools, because what I know from what I did with physical therapy and all the different things I've tried over the years for myself is not one modality always works for everybody, right? Of course.
Right.
But also not one modality works every single time for the same person. So at some point you might need to try something different, or you might need a different idea, or you might need to tackle it just in a little bit different way than you have in the past. And that's why I love bringing my experts together, because then you have this little toolkit in your hands and you can, play with all of the different kinds of modalities and practices and self-healing techniques that could work for you. I always tell people, if you've been to 10 doctors and you're feeling a little hopeless, don't quit. First of all, that's the first message. And secondly, keep looking for someone to guide you back to your inner wisdom. There is definitely going to be something that works. So you just haven't found it yet.
Yeah. So we talked about the inner wisdom and it's self-healing. Do you feel like you mentioned something earlier about something bigger than you? Is there a higher power? Is it God? Is it something else? The universe? I don't know what, everybody has a different name for it.
I've called it a lot of things. And yes, I call it God, and I've written poems, and God is in my poems, and the universe is in there too. And I think it doesn't matter what we call it. It's the feeling that there's something bigger. When I woke up, I was dreaming this dream of getting people together. It was March 20th of 2020. It was right after COVID, and everyone's going to have these crazy stories about this. But I woke up that day, March 20th, dreaming this dream. I was half awake, dreaming this dream. I got up, I thought, oh my gosh. And I walked to my computer, and I invited that group of people. I was teaching a class or something I was doing on Facebook. And I said, hey, you guys, the world just lost its healers. Like, we need to help out. Like, let's write this book. And in 48 hours, 24 people said yes. And 5 weeks later, that book was on Amazon to a #1 bestseller in multiple categories. You know, that wasn't just me. That was me following the divine orders from the universe and just following the breadcrumbs that were being put in my face. If I wasn't aware and awake and paying attention to that dream, first of all, I mean, I could have been any dream. I could have just been like, oh, whatever. But no, I was like, oh, I hear you. And I knew it. And so ever since then, you know, it is crazy to say we've published over 67 expert collaborations since that day, but that is true. And something way bigger than me is driving that bus.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I totally believe that. Well, it's interesting. Like, so how would you tell someone to like turn, and I know you just can't turn it on, but turn on that awareness button, because you got to practice. You got to practice at work at being aware. So what would you suggest, or what would you encourage somebody to do to turn it on?
That is probably one of my favorite questions ever, because it's a practice. So how you don't just automatically turn it on whenever in the beginning. In the beginning, it's harder. In the beginning, you have to put it into your calendar. You have to set reminders on your phone to breathe, literally. What if all this is just a pause and a deep pelvic bowl breath, where you let your ribs expand and then contract, and you just be in the moment of feeling the sensation of the air moving in and out. And what if that's as complicated as it ever got? That's it. Like, I make it sound easy, I know. But we get distracted. We have our work. We have our crazy thoughts in our head all day long, getting us down. Self-sabotage happens a lot. So in the beginning, I actually had to use journaling as my main mode of awareness. I had to get out of my head and onto paper what was going on, so that I would have a moment of awareness of when I needed to pause and take that deep breath. So those are a couple of ways you can start. You can start by calendaring in your day the deep, relaxed, full breaths. And I'm slowing my verbal down on purpose, because I talk fast and I am going 150 miles an hour most of the time every day, right? And I got to remind myself to slow down and breathe. But then take a notebook and a pen. And if you were going to journal, bullet point journal, some of those tapes that you know about yourself, some of the messages that are getting you stuck, and you can write them out. And that's an awareness tool. So journaling is an awareness tool. Once you know what they are, you can call them out. So once I see it on the paper, like tomorrow, if that same message comes up in my brain, I can look down at my notebook and I can be like, oh, there you are again, you sneaky thing. Talk to the hand, man. Like, I'm not going to fall for that today, you know, because you are getting to know yourself, and you're getting to know the tapes that happen every day. So I try to have fun with it, right? We were talking about how to have fun with your fear. That's part of this. It's like, oh, you know, I'm not going to let you do that to me again. Like, I got this. I'm good. Like, go away, you know?
Well, that's interesting, Laura, because like I have a thing, and I've been, I guess, taught, or I guess told to do a little something different with it. But like, I have a thing when I know that fear, that little, I call it little Robbie's coming in to tell me that I'm not good enough, smart enough, or whatever the case may be. I say, yeah, I'm like, okay, Rob, thanks for letting me know you're here. I appreciate you stopping by, and now you can leave. right? So that's the conversation I have in my head. But it's almost like, Rob, I know you're here. Thanks for stopping by. I'm going to give you a hug first. We'll have a conversation, and then you can leave, right?
Yeah.
So it's about being aware of that, being aware of that thing that causes fear, stress, anxiety, whatever it is. And then once you're aware of it, it's almost like you can tackle it, or you can say, go, take a hike, whatever you want to say. But I think that's like the baseline for it. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I would. And I love how you're talking about this because I have that little Laura too. And so what I realized is that there was different voices, and I started to fine tune my awareness practice. I call them ninja moves of mindset, right? And one of my ninja moves was to discern whether it was little Laura or not.
Right.
And when it was little Laura, yes, you got to befriend that voice. You have to put your arm around that little guy and say, "Hey, we got this. I got you. You're okay." Because that's a fear response inside of you that is very real. Feels like you're going to die. Like it's visceral sometimes, But I was discerning that little Laura voice with this other pain in the ass voice that was a little bit more. It wasn't the little me. It might have been a voice from a coach or an ex or a teacher or somebody who said something to me that made me think of something about myself, right? A different kind of voice. I know you know what I'm talking about there. So when I knew it wasn't little Laura and it was that other one that I could, then that was more like, talk to the hand, man, get out of here. I don't need you. Like we're not going to do that today. But yeah, you're so right about that other one, because you have to be kind and compassionate. And this is not about pushing it away. It's about integrating and relearning your own, reactions and triggers to things come from a very real fear.
It's about being in tune with yourself, right?
Yeah. Yes,
So
ultimately.
you said something about having fun with your fears early. So you mentioned it. I was like, well, let's segue into that. So talk to me a little bit about, I think you said it was a book you're writing, that how to have fun with your fears, or that you wrote.
I did write that one. So it's called How to Have Fun with Your Fear. And this is, I call it purpose-driven fear we're talking about.
Okay.
So purpose-driven fear is something that is more self-sabotagey. You've got a goal. You want to go for it in life. You've got a business. You're growing and you're doing, crazy new things, and you're taking some risks, and you're a little afraid to, you guys fill in the blank, right? It's more of a purpose-driven kind of fear that you're feeling. So the problem, like I was saying before, is it feels very much like survival kind of fear. It feels very viscerally like that same kind, like you're walking in the dark alley and you should be nowhere near there, So you have to understand it. It comes with excitement. It cycles back. Purpose-driven fear comes back around to haunt you. It knows your purpose. And it's like challenging you almost. Here I am again. What are you going to do about it? Like, this is part of your purpose. And one of my breath worker people said, fear is just excitement without the breath. And I loved that, because she was right. Like when I was scared to write something or do something, I was always holding my breath. There was always like that clench in my gut. I could feel it. I wasn't really breathing. It's because I was excited, but I was a little nervous. So how to have fun with your fear is to recognize that fear is a feeling inside of you, period. Stop making it mean stuff and come back into your body. Use your awareness practice, and then know what you want. And you need to prioritize the action taking, because you're never going to feel the courage and confidence and clarity first. All that stuff you want to feel to go do the thing you're afraid to do, it's only going to come after you do the thing. So you have to feel the fear and then do it anyway. We've heard that one before.
Yeah.
And the way that you feel it and do it anyway is you use that body awareness tool, and you align with your purposeful dreams and goals and to-do list over there. And you go for it, and you learn how to go for it with the feeling. You
and
learn
be
how to do
okay with it.
that and you have to be okay with it, right? You're going to survive.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny
Yeah,
how the stories we tell ourselves.
I know.
Like, you ever catch yourself? Because I'm sure you're not perfect, and maybe you are, but I only know one person's perfect. It's not you. It's not me.
It's not me either.
But it's like, do you ever catch yourself in a moment of fear or anxiety, and you tell yourself a story, and then you got to, like, this happens to me. Like, I'm telling myself a story, like, oh, she doesn't like me anymore, or that person's pissed at me, or whatever. And you're like, wait a minute, Rob, that's the story you're telling yourself, but that's not the reality. Do you ever have to go through that with yourself?
Always, always. And I check myself on that regularly. There's some story we tell ourselves, and then, I'm going to get back to the D word, discernment, because discernment in the awareness practice means everything in terms of how you up level yourself in what you're doing in life and your business or whatever you're up to. You will have messages, stories you're telling yourself about stuff, and you do have to check that self-sabotage. But also there's intuition, there's knowing. And if you can discern between these messages and understand when you do need to listen to the message, then you got it. You got everything. But this is a practice and sometimes a lifelong mastery.
Yeah.
So we got to cut ourselves some slack. We're all in a practice of this. Nobody's perfect. But when you start to tell yourself the limiting belief stories that are keeping you paralyzed from doing that thing you really want to do, that's a clue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you should use the words lifelong mastery, right? And I like the lifelong learning. And I like to tell people, like, we have this, some people have this thing like, oh, once I get there, then. And I'm
Right.
like, there's no there. There is no such thing as there. And you said it, lifelong mastery. You're always learning, you're always looking to grow, always looking to become more aware. Because I'm like, when I wrote my book, Better Than You Think, you can see it above my head there. It's a copy of it. Or somebody made a poster for me. My buddy did. But anyway, it's like I was going to name the book Awareness first. And I'm like, nah, that's a boring title. Who's going to want to pick up a book and say awareness? Who's going to read that? And then I'm like, aha moments, when the light goes off, or really when it goes on. So me personally, I get fired up and I get energy when I have an aha moment. And I think an aha moment is a moment of awareness. And if we can continue to have aha moments or moments of awareness, then you just grow and you grow and you grow. And I tell people, I want to be 90 years old and still having aha moments.
Yes, for sure. That's a good life.
It's a great life, right?
I find that a lot of people aren't giving themselves the space in quiet and in stillness to have more creative time for those aha moments to move through. So my writing is my meditation, and it's also my main channel. Like, words move through me from somewhere much bigger. But if I clog up my system with distractions and too busyness and all of the things, I never give myself space to slow down, get still, relax. And the self-care term gets overused a little bit, but it's whatever helps you connect again. Then I'm not in that flow, and I realize, right? And so most of us people who are just working so hard aren't scheduling in that time, which is absolutely necessary. You typically aren't going to get those aha moments unless you've slowed down long enough to listen to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask you this. Do you, I'm going to go in that quiet and stillness place here. Do you do it once a day in the morning? Do you do it 3 times a day? Do you do it morning and evening? When do you find time to have your quiet time and your stillness time?
It's morning, definitely morning. And I wake up really early because the house is very quiet. And if I wait, it just gets noisier. And so I already know, like, for me, it's that first thing in the morning when I wake up and nobody else is awake. And I can sit and I can journal. I can do whatever I want. And I'm just literally in a quiet environment. But you know how this goes, right? The longer you go into the morning, and then the world wakes up literally, and then all of the texts come through, or you've got your email in front of you, or you've got people knocking at your door, or whatever it is. So I would say morning's a really good chunk of the morning, probably 2 hours or so. I'm finding stillness. I'm with my own journal. I'm with the dog, petting the dog. I'm sitting outside. It's getting a little colder now here in Maryland, but going for a walk. I'm doing all those things that I can do to just not be on my to-do list yet.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the to-do list starts, it's all over for me. Like I'm not a late afternoon or evening person in terms of this. So if I need something before I go to bed, which I actually think is really important for people to understand, set up your dream time in a nice way too. Then I will listen to a meditation first as I kind of fall asleep. And so that would be like my second favorite thing to do aside from my morning, my miracle morning. I also have, sometimes at night I'll need to listen to something to come down a notch and set up my dream time for good. Ahas and full downloads can come through in a dream, like I told you earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because like you said, you'd like to stay away from the M word, meditation, and I think some people read into that differently. And like I do, what's called contemplative prayer, right? And that's I call it the Catholic form of meditation, right? So, but it's about getting still. It's about getting quiet. And I know when I started doing this is way back when I would go into church for 45 minutes, 5 days a week, and I would read, I'd journal, and I'd get quiet. And the next thing you know, it was like months later, not the next day, not the next week, but months later, I would start getting things. I'm like, oh my gosh, I get it now. I might have heard something 1,000 times, and all of a sudden I got it, right? It's that aha moment. And so it's really important. And I think we're on the same page here is you got to find time to get quiet. And it doesn't have to be, like you said, sitting on a pillow with your legs crossed. You can be sitting in a chair. Me, I'm a gardener. I love my garden. And that's somebody saw me yesterday. I was picking figs. And somebody said, this is your happy place, isn't it? And I'm like, yes, it is. And so when I'm looking at my garden, when I'm taking a walk with the dog at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, that's meditative time, if you will. And so that's a time to get quiet and still. So I'm like, I think you would agree. It's not just sitting on a pillow.
I think you just came up with your next book title, Picking Figs. Like seriously, like we need to write that book. I love that. Yeah, it's whatever helps you connect.
Yeah. So it's great. So then a couple other words before we get going here. You talked about discernment and intuition. So I love putting all this together: discernment, intuition, awareness, quietness, all this stuff. It comes together, and I think people think it's such a huge mountain to climb at times. To me, it's the long game. We talked about this earlier. It's the long game. So when do you know? This might be a tough question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. When do you know you've discerned something? When do you know that?
That's such a great question and a little bit tough to answer. But I think in my own practice, it's when I'm not second guessing the answer. It's when I don't have to second guess it or think about it. It's an instant knowing. I can feel a yes or a no in my body. I don't have to like double check it.
Yeah.
It's just there. I'm moving in a direction instantly. It's within seconds. I just know I can make a decision. It's clear to me. And it also, that discernment has to do with feeling very strongly good. These do not have bad feelings to them. And I think where we get messed up with this, and I used to, is in this weird gray area confusion zone where people would say, well, what about this? And the answer would be like, I don't know, I'm confused. And I had a healer say to my face one day, it's easier to be confused because you're not making a decision.
Yeah.
And even though that decision might be difficult, you're still clear that it's your decision. It's just that you don't want to make it, right? She was like talking to me and I was like, whoa, what did you just say? Like it was, the truth of that was in me so intensely. So now the discernment is like, oh yeah, no, I know the difference, and I don't have to sit around procrastinating or wondering about it. It's just a matter of like how I'm going to respond.
Yeah, I like what you said. It's a knowing, and I know there's times I get up and I'm like, I know, and but there's sometimes doubt creeps in. So you
Always,
got,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, Laura, you got a lot going on here. You're super successful. It's awesome to hear what you're sharing here. How much more chiseling do you got going on in your life? What else is going to be happening for you?
The chisel. This chisel is lifelong too, right? Oh, we have so many things going on right now. I am chiseling away on running a writer's retreat. That's going to be a big new program for me next year. That's a learning experience, you know? So all of these things that we decide to do, it's like, whoa, do you really want to do that? Like, you're going to have to really learn a thing or two. And we're working on our children's book publishing. I'm going to be contracting with business leaders and doing expert collaborations for business. So many different things. And all of these things, I love the topic of chiseled because it's all a work in progress. And the thing that I think I love about myself the most is I'm not afraid to go for it and learn while I'm in there. And
Yeah.
that has been one of the secrets to my success for sure.
And I think that could be a secret to anybody's success if they just learn to go for it.
Yeah,
It's so profound. I mean, it's easy to say, hard to do, but you go from it. If you go for it, and I don't even like to use the word fail, because if you didn't
yeah.
get what you were looking for, you at least learned something. So how did you really fail, right? So
Right.
it's like it's like go for it and learn from it. Don't be afraid to do it. And I still have my reservations. I still have my anxieties when I'm like, okay, Rob, just go for it. And sometimes I put the brakes of doubt in there, and I don't. But I know that you have to make those decisions. You have to take those steps and get comfortable being uncomfortable. If you've heard that said many a times. So
Yes, of course. Everything good happens in your discomfort zone. Everything good.
love that. Love that. So Laura, if again, thank you for your time today. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you, reach out to you, and learn more about the holistic healing, the books you put together, the collaborations, how would they get a hold of you?
Come and visit bravehealer.com. You'll find it. You find me at lauradefranco.com too. So either my name or Brave Healer. And we're on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. Please reach out under Laura DeFranco on LinkedIn. Connect with me. We can set up a chat. I love to help you all. Just talk about your book idea. If you need a little, brain pick about publishing, I'm happy to meet you and talk you through it. And Rob, thank you for what you do too. Thanks for this podcast and for the topics and the material that you're helping us share in the world. I think it really matters that we talk about some of these things, especially the awareness. I so appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it means a lot to have this conversation. I think they call it kindred spirit, right?
Yes.
Laura, thanks so much. Until next time, everybody, let's go get chiseled.